Shalom Aleichem. As I greet you and open this testimony with peace be unto you, that is in our native Hebrew tongue, I want you to know that I give all thanks, praises, glory, and honor to our mighty, great, good, and terrible God, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews. Biblical references, the book of Exodus, chapter 7, and verses 16 and 17, and the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, and verse 17. I want you to know that I give all thanks, praises, glory, and honor to his divine Son, the ever-present Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Beth Nun Sophie, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, interpreted as God, the Son of God. Biblical reference, the book of Matthew, chapter 3, and verses 16 and 17. Now, with that said, I am going to testify to you in this video of a subject that highlights one appellation of several appellations of the Son, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh, that is world-renowned of all religions today. Now, the infamous appellation of subject is known as, quote, the Messiah, end of quote. In fact, this testimony is stimulated from the very same subject that I read recently on another website that ended with a question that was asked. And that subject and question is, I quote, anyone that claims to be the Messiah, you say he's a false Messiah based on the scriptures. He either doesn't say the right things, he doesn't wear the right clothes, he doesn't look the right way, or his works don't measure up to your standards. So, for all of you waiting for a Messiah, and I'm not saying if you're right or wrong, how will you know it's him? End of quote. And I must say that I love two comments that responded by those of my beloved family members of the tribe of Yisrael, called Judah or Yehuda, and the house thereof, who are among the more blessed and of the benevolent wheat of Yahweh. Now, I will testify to you all, that is, if you don't mind, and care one new edition of study and results of the subject and question as follows. The very first thing that you must know is to get the full understanding of the English's word, quote, Messiah, end of quote, the way it was transliterated from its original Hebrew or Hebraic. You must also get the full understanding and know where the English's word, quote, Messiah, end of quote, originally came from. You must also get the full understanding and know who originally wrote the Hebraic word for the English's word, quote, Messiah, end of quote. You must get the full understanding and know how the English's word, quote, Messiah, end of quote, relates to the King James authorized 1611 version of the Holy Bible. And finally, you must get the full understanding and know how the English's word, quote, Messiah, end of quote, relates to all prophecy of today. Now, you may be wanting to know why, or you may be asking that infamous one-word question, why? Well, one answer among several is because the word, quote, Messiah, end of quote, the way it appears in English, has been misconstrued for hundreds and hundreds of years by generations of false clergies and false prophets that has the whole earth believing that, quote, the Messiah, end of quote, is the one whom will physically, in person, or in the flesh, on a nationwide telecast, deliver the children of Yahweh to their own God, and then deliver them into their own land. No, no, no. My beloved people, prophecy of today says that the deliverance of Yehudah, or Judah in English, out of the hands of their oppressors in all countries where they have been scattered, will be performed by the very Spirit of Yahweh, Yahweh. Now, this proof is found in a prophetic cryptic passage that was sealed in the book of Zechariah, chapter 4, and verses 3 through 9, which reads, as I quote, verse 1, "And the angel that talked with me came again, and waked me, as a man that is wakened out of his sleep, and said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick of olive gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof." And verse 4 says, "So I answered and spake to the angel that talked with me, saying, What are these, my Lord? Then the angel that talked with me answered and said unto me, Knowest thou not what these be? And I said, No, my Lord. Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of Yahweh, Yahweh, unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, said Yahweh, Beth No Sophie, Yahweh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, the Lord of hosts. Verse 7 says, Who art thou, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel thou shalt become a plain, and he shall bring forth the headstone thereof with shoutings, crying, Grace, grace unto it. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it, and thou shalt know that Yahweh, Beth Nun Sophie, Yahweh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, hath sent me unto you. End of quote. Now, in this passage is sealed the mystery of 2 things. The first is that the Messiah is found here in this passage, talking to someone whom he waked out of his sleep, and who is standing between 2 types of the same people to show him the assignment that he is being commanded to gather a certain people of Yahweh that were chosen by Yahweh and measured by Yahweh to become separate from other people who refuse to obey their own God, Yahweh. And 2, the most powerful government on earth today that was built by the very hands of those very same people and their foreparents, their forefathers and mothers, will experience the greatest exodus of a mass of people at one time since it was first witnessed by another government known as, quote, Egypt, end of quote, over 5,000 years ago. Needless to say, if you would like to join in on the mysteries of this passage that we just read for you in the book of Zechariah, and know more of his revelations concerning this passage of Zechariah chapter 4, then please tune in to the testimony on YouTube titled, quote, The Third Seal in Series by Mykayahweh, end of quote. Meanwhile, the question that you might have now of this testimony may be, what does this passage of Zechariah chapter 4 means? And one answer among several is, this passage means that you must find the one whom the Messiah had wakened or waked out of his sleep and filled that one man's soul of power by the divine spirit of Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Beit Nusafit, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh ben Yahweh himself. That is, according to verses 1 and 6 of Zechariah chapter 4. In other words, let us explain this mystery by breaking this passage down for you into precepts. Now, to begin with these precepts, let's focus on the English noun Messiah. That noun occurs only twice in the Old Testament of the King James Version Bible. And those two occurrences are in one chapter of 2 verses. That is prophesied in the same passage of the book of Daniel. This means that Daniel was the only servant of Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh, that is among the Hebrew servants of Yahweh of the Old Testament, to have used this particular appellation of Yahweh ben Yahweh. However, when Daniel originally handwrote his prophecy in ink with a pen, he used a word of the Hebrew idiom that was created from the original Hebraic characters that are spelled from right to left. Mem, Sin, Yud, Keth. Pronounced MASHIYACH. MASHIYACH. And this Hebrew word means, quote, the high priest that is anointed, the anointed one of Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh, end of quote. Now, Yahweh ben Yahweh is the Mashiach, or the Messiah in English. And Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, the son Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is the only high priest that is the anointed one of Yahweh, whom Daniel wrote of in his indicts. And that passage of Daniel, chapter 9, reads, beginning at verse 22, as I quote, And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Mashiach, or the Messiah, the prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And verse 26 says, and after 62 weeks shall the Mashiach, or the Messiah, be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And verse 27 says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. End of quote.